instructions. Where we are going to write these instructions? Editor. And what is an instruction in the editor? It's an executable line. What are you going to write in the editor? An executable line. What is that executable line? It's a task oriented. There will be a task will be connected to that line. So that is what is called as executable line. So now these executable lines are called as, yes, statements. So there will be two types of statements. One is a single line statement and multi-line statement. And also like there are like non-executable statements will be there, right? Non-executable statements will be there in our program, in our editor. All the lines should be executable in the editor. If you get an editor like this, this is an editor part. What is this one is, this is the folder structure. This is the major advantage of the Python, where you will be having all the folder structures. When you write a program, you will be getting a, now you just see this. Now, this is a folder structure, what you have it. Okay. So this folder structure is the one. Now, the major advantage of like, whatever you are going to write it over here in the editor, okay? Whatever you are going to write it in the editor, that should be executable as per the rules. But, and while writing code also, we have to follow some rules. You can't write as you like. So you have to follow that rules. This following the rules and writing the sentences is called as coding, guys. You have to follow some simple rules. Yeah, you have to follow some simple rules. And when you follow these rules and when you write the code, that is called as coding. That is what is programming. That's it. Follow some rules and write it. Only remembering those rules will be a bit difficult. But if you are not following the rules, these rules are called as syntax. In the technical terminology, they call it as syntax. If you are not following the rules, what happens? It will trigger an error, right? It will trigger an error. Now, and what is a non-executable statement? The statements which are, will not be having any task. That is what is called as non-executable. Usually they use the non-executable statements for documentation purpose. When you want to do the documentation, we are going to use the non-executable statements. Okay. But the question is, who will know that which is executable or non-executable? Who will go and check it out whether we are doing the right syntax or not, right rules we are following or not? Who will do that? Huh? No, that is non-executable statements, right? We are going to keep the comments, right? If I want to write it something like this, this program is a sample program, first program of Python. Okay, I'm writing it over here. This is my first program. Okay. So this is my first program. I'm going to write it over here. This is my first program. Now, this one will trigger an error. This will trigger an error. You see, this is my first program. Is because we are not following the rules. Okay. Now, what you have to do? Comment, right? You use the comment. That's what my question was. This we did. Who is saying that this is a mistake? Yes? Speak it out. Translator. Who is the translator? Computer. Who's that? Who said computer? You? Computer? Oh, how the computer will be translated? No. Compiler or interpreter. No, what you said is the translator. Actually, I said you over here. I gave a small glance to you over here in the yesterday. If I want to communicate with you, what is the language I'm using? English. You know the English and I know the English, right? It is not a problem at all. Now, if you take it over here, this one, that I'm communicating with you all without any problem, you are doing it. What is this? I'm communicating with the computer over here, right? I'm computer. What language I'm using? Computer programming language. But when it comes to a person who is speaking only Japanese language, and I want to communicate over here in English. Now, the communicating with the person is very, very important for me. So what I will use it? I will use a translator, the person who will translate. In the same way over here, when I am writing a code, usually I will write it in English like words. But what the computer will understand? Will the computer will understand directly? No. Computer will understand a binary language. That is called as a low-level language. And high-level language means? Yeah, when you are using English-like alphabets to write the code is called as high-level language. And by this will understand the binary language. Binary language means zeros and ones. Now you are writing in English, which is a high-level language, and the computer will understand what? Binary language. How it will happen in them? It's like I'm speaking in English, the person knows only Japanese. So we need a translator. Now this translator is called as a mediator, is called as a compiler or interpreter. Okay? Compiler or interpreter. Both will be doing the same stuff. Okay? But this compiler or interpreter will be doing two tasks. First one, it will translate the things and send it. Second is, before translating, it will check the errors. Before translating, it will check the errors. Remember that. Now, when someone is saying that I'm building up a language, I'm developing a language, or I'm creating a language, or the person who developed that, Guido van Rossum, he's developed a language. So what he developed actually? He developed the computer, he developed the editor, then what? No, what is that? Python what? What is Python in this? Now we are doing the Python. Have you seen it? Okay. You downloaded the Python. Yes. You executed the program yesterday. Now what is the Python in that? You did it, right? Yes or no? You didn't do it? Madam, you did it? Everyone did it? What is the Python in that? What is that Python in that? What is the programming language in that? Editor? No. But when you downloaded, what you downloaded?
Verification software. Verification software.
I didn't get it.
Software application.
Application. Python is used to develop the application. Okay. What is that? The interpreter or the compiler. When someone is saying that I'm developing a programming language, or when you are downloading, they are not downloading anything, but the interpreter or the compiler you are downloading. That plays a very important role of rectifying your errors, identifying your errors, and execute the task. It will translate the things to the computer, and computer will be doing. So when a person is saying that he developed the language, means that is nothing but either he developed the compiler or he developed the interpreter. Remember that. Okay. Now, so these languages, whatever is there, this is the languages which we talked about yesterday, is called as high-level language. Okay. Now, the languages are broadly classified into 5 categories. Okay. 5 generations, they will call it as. Broadly, very broadly classified in 2 types. One is low-level language and high-level language. But if you are going to go with the generations, they are classified into 5 generations. One is called as, binary language, which is the first generation one, where you use the zeros and one. Second one is called as second generation one, where it is called as assembly language. Okay, these two comes under the low-level languages. Now the third generation is nothing but the Java, C++, C, Python 2.x, all this comes under the third generation. Now what is the fourth generation? Third generation is like, you will be writing with the English-like words. Completely you will use the English-like words and you will write the code. Now what is the fourth generation one? When you talk about the fourth generation one, you will use the English-like sentences. You'll use the English-like sentences, not the words. Sentence, complete sentence. The best example is, if you know the SQL, SQL is the one where you use the complete sentence. Okay? Create a table. Create a table. That is what you will write over there. I'm talking about create a table. So the same thing you will be doing it over there. Okay? The next one is, yeah, just update it. Update the table or insert into the table. That is what you will write the SQL. Now the Python 3.x is there, right? The same way you are going to write it. 3.x, not 2.x, 3.x. It will be very, very flexible. Python 3.x is really very flexible. And you know, this comes under the 4th generation language. What is the 5th generation language? Is nothing but, you know, you no need to write it. There's no languages existing yet, but still they are in the trial. All you have to say is say the task and it will write the program. No need to write it. Okay. Then again, saying the task should be very much precisely done. Okay. This is what is actually the 5 generations of the language. So the first two, the first generation will be, you know, actually understood by the computers, which is called as binary language. Okay. And, you know, and then rest of all, like we developed it based on our comfortness, because the first generation, we could not write the code in zeros and ones. We developed them as per our requirement. Okay? Clear? Now, this is what is quickly about all the fundamentals what you required, guys. Any questions you have it? I told you like how the Python will work. So in Python, or quickly recapping, in Python, whenever you are using a value means usually there will be 3 types, but we will take only 2. One is called as numerical and character type, right? This is like numerical and character. Whenever you are using a value that directly occupies the memory, no doubt about that, it will occupy the memory. So how to know that whether it is occupy the memory or not? How to know that whether it's occupy the memory or not? ID function. What is the ID function will do? Address. Good. It will give the address. Now, how to know that what type of data is stored in the memory? Type function. What the type function will do? What the type function will do? It tells the type of data. The term is called as data type. Okay? Data type, guys. Now, this is all about, like, these are the different functions we were seeing in the last class. This type, let me see if they are asking some. So now let's quickly go through the like history of the Python, guys. Just I want to go through, especially I want to let you know why we are coming, why we are learning the 3.x, and you know what is the advantage of 3.x. That is the reason what we are going to do. See, actually the Python is majorly you know, it was initially developed in the year 1989, like around 30 years back. 30 years back, Python came into the existence. The first version of the Python was, first version matlab beta version I'm talking about. Beta version was released in 1989. And this is a high level language. Remember that. This is the high level language. That is, you will use the English-like words to write the code. Okay. Now, who developed this one? A person called as Guido van Rossum. So, the Python came into the existence in 1989 beta version. Okay. And the person name is Guido van Rossum. And he is from Netherlands. He is from Netherlands. He was a mathematician and a computer scientist. And he graduated from the University of Amsterdam in the year 1982. 82, something like that. 82, 83 time he was graduated, early 1980s. And then he got a job in the National University of Netherlands. Okay, there was a research university that in that he got a job in the National Research University of Netherlands initially. Initially, he got the job in that. And that time, the time when this school, like he was there, when he joined the Netherlands, Netherlands is a very small country. Very, very small country. And this country, the capital is Amsterdam. Amsterdam. And this person went into the research institute of, got a job in the research institute of Netherlands. And he was a part of a branch called as CWI. Now, there is a Netherlands name is there, this one. It is in the Dutch language. So the purpose of CWI was to develop the computer programming language. They were developing the computer programming language. Actually, that time in 80s, it was a trend that all the rich countries like Western countries, they were investing a lot in the computers, especially developing the language and all those things. Like US was already having some good languages. They came up with the C, C++. UK was having some languages. So these people were also wanted to have their own language. So they started developing a language called as ABC. The name itself is ABC, the language name. Okay, ABC language was the one which was developed. And this language was actually developed based on the existing languages features, like whatever the languages was existing at the time, those languages special features were taken and this was developed. And some of the features were majorly influenced by set language. There was a set language was there, set language. And this was a part of this language was from the US, set language, SETL they will say, SETL. So this was specially used for the set. If you know, someone knows the Python sets, it was majorly based on the sets, Python sets. The structure was something like that. Now there was one more language called Algo, I think so. Algo language was there. And this was an algorithmic language. These two were the languages which was specially for the, one is for the set language, second was the Algo. And based on these two languages, the ABC language was developed. And it was also extracted some of the features like functions from C. Functions from C and concept from C++. And, modularization, mod 1 and module 1. The language was there, module 1, module 2, module 3. So they were using this one. So based on these features, apart from these features, the major was influenced by set and Algol. And, they were developing the things. And Udo van Rossum was a part of this team. He was a part. He was a very much junior guy. He was a part. And after 3-4 years, what he observed is there was a drastic mistake was happening with the ABC. Even though they are acquiring the language from the different known ones, but still there was a drastic mistake was happening in that, which was a problem. So he raised that point with the people, the higher people will be there, right? The research. Then he went and raised them. They ignored him. Usually it will happen when the junior level person comes and raises it. So the senior person ignores him. You don't have so much of experience, just get out. So the same thing happened. He was feeling that one, like there was a mistake was happening in that. So what he did, rectifying all these mistakes, whatever the ABC was doing, rectifying all these mistakes, he was building up a small language of his own. That is, he was building his own language. He was spending like every year ending when there will be a series of holidays, right? Christmas holidays and New Year. That time he was spending a lot and he was developing. In a due course of 2 to 3 years, he was having a small language of its own. With all in other words, the interpreter or the compiler he developed. Then what he did in 1989, he passed on this language to his friends. His circle will be there. Just pass it on and say that, just check it out. I developed this language. Is there any problem in that? So these people started, whenever they had the time, they were looking at this language and they were coming up and saying what are the problems, and the problems were rectified. This went on for 2 years, guys. And during this process, they have to communicate, right? They have to communicate. Now, I have to communicate with the management of the like Naresh IT, that this batch. Now, what I will give a name to this, right? 930 DS batch is there, data science batch. Like that, in order to communicate within them, they want to have a name to this project. Whatever they are doing the language, they want to have a name. So at that time, at the time of when he was doing, his favorite program was a comedy program was called as, Python's, like, Monty Python show. There was a group of people were there. Yeah, that is actually comedian. It's a comedy. It is the name of the show was Circus. Okay. The name of the head of the guy was Monty, and he was having a team of 4 or 5 people. These all people were called as Monty's Python. These people were called as group is called as Monty's Python. So they were doing the different shows, which was very, very popular. Okay. So what happened? He was a big fan of them. And these people, whoever the 5 people were there, they are called as Pythons. Okay. So these people, this group was a favorite to the Guido van Rossum. So they want to keep up a name. Just out of the box. He said that, okay, let's go with the Python. So it's not related to the snake. Nowhere it is related. Because of these comedians, they call this one as the Python. And they wanted to later on replace this one with a proper name once they're releasing it. But they were so much used to this name, they went on with the same name into the market. And this was happened in 1991. The first version was released in 1991. And any programming language, if you take it, any programming language with the maximum updates, it can survive for 3 to 4 decades. That is 30 to 40 years, not more than that. Any programming language, when we say with the updates on, constantly if you are doing it, it can survive it for 3 to 4 decades, not more than that. So these people released in 1991, which was 4 years early than the Java. And when he released it, he released as a scripting language. So what is the scripting language? Again, the question will come up. So at that time in 1991, there was one thing was very much booming. What is that? Was internet. It was just started. And people were seeing that this is the future. So they were developing the application based on the internet. So for internet, now the simple here. For the internet, you should have whenever you develop an application, you will be having a light-weighted language over there. You can't give it a complete language over there. Now, complete language and the scripting language difference is, complete language, you can develop the desktop applications, you can develop the web applications, you can develop the network applications, all these things you can do it with a full-fledged language. But when you talk about the scripting language, you can develop only the web-based applications. It is a lightweight, very much lightweight language. Now, why they have to use the lightweight means, now just imagine, you are just opening the one page, you are opening the Amazon, another page you are opening the Flipkart. And Flipkart is using the full-fledged language and Amazon is using the lightweight language, okay, scripting language. Now, obviously, the lightweight language will be loading up very fast. And this will take a lot of time to load. So which one you will go with? Amazon. You will delay, you will close that one and you will start shopping with Amazon. What will happen? The customers will be dissatisfied and they will be running away. So the Guido was concentrating majorly on scripting language, which is a lightweight language. Now, when this, he was 1991, 92, 93, 94, he released that, new updates. New updates were released. When it came to the 1995, the Java came into the existence. And when the Java was released in 1995, by the Sun Microsystems. It was an instant hit, big hit it was. Why it was hit means it is not that it is really very powerful, which is not there in the Python. It's not like that, because the marketing strategy, right? The time when the Java was developing, it is a powerful language. No doubt it was a powerful language, and it was a full-fledged language. Okay, full-fledged language means develop all the different applications. But the major advantage was it was supported by IBM and Oracle. There were two giants at the time. They were supporting the Sun Microsystems to develop this. Once they developed, they started giving the statements, Oracle and IBM, that we are using the Java in our applications. So obviously, when the people like IBM and Oracle are using that, other people will be running behind them. So in that way, it became an instant hit. Of course, later on it became a very powerful language, that is secondary. But that was lacking with the Python. Python was not having some big hand or big company behind them. These were the small people, they were doing it, they were giving the presentations, and slowly they started developing. In 2000, okay, if you take it in 2000, these Python people, they want to transform from the scripting language to the full-fledged language. Okay, they want to transform from the scripting language to full-fledged language. So they released a new version, altogether new version of that, called as Py2K. This is called as Py2K, that is Python 2000. That is the millennium version. So from here on, till that time, the version was 1.0, 1.1, 1.2, 1.3. From 2000, the versions was 2.0, 2.1, 2.3, 2.4, something like that. So these versions were called as Python 2.x. Now this is Python 2.x because x is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Now this Python 2.x, what it was a full-fledged language. It was a full-fledged language, and by that time, the Java was far, far, far ahead compared to that of Python. Nowhere. It is nowhere near to that of Java. They were saying that 70% of the applications were running on Java in that early 2000. Early 2000, 2001, 2002, 2003, 70% of the applications were running on the Java. So you can see that, how powerful it is. Now, the Python was just transformed it. They were having their own customers, small amount of customers, but they are having. But, that was 1 or 2% only. 1 or 2% of the customers, the Python were having. The Java was having the 70% of the market share in the software field. All the applications were running. Now, in 2005, guys, something drastic happened over here. What happened was, now as I told you, behind the Java success was Oracle and IBM. And because these were the giants which they were using it, so all the rest of other people were running behind them. They are running behind them, and they were applying this Java. Again, it's a free of cost. There's nothing it has to pay, nothing is there. It's a free of cost. Of course, the Python was also a free of cost, open source. It's free of freeware, open source, and all these things. But, the Java, what happened was in 2005, first time Oracle people approached the Sun Microsystems to acquire the Java. That means they want to buy the Java. They went and approached the Sun Microsystems to buy the Java. And at that time, like as I said it, like 70% of the share was with the Java. All the applications were running. Now, in 2005, that is Python X was having only 4% of the share. Developed from 1% to 4%. And this 4% was like 3 million applications were there. 4% is 3 million. 1 million is 10 lakhs. That is 30 lakh applications were running, which is called as 4%. Then what is 70%? It's a very huge number, very, very huge number. So when this Oracle approached the Sun Microsystem, that was a triggering point for the rest of the IT giants who was completely reliable on the Java. Like by the time Google came into the existence, and IBM was completely dependent on this one. Deloitte was dependent on this one. These are the big giants, they were really shocked. Once the Oracle buys it, they will keep up the license also. A simple license, if they keep it, they will earn billions and billions of dollars. So immediate now, the Google, if you take it, Google was given the search engine, which was 100% free of cost. They were not having an initial revenue. So they were completely reliable on the Java only. So this was a triggering point. Then the Google, not the IBM, the Google, what it did, they took an initiation and started searching for another alternative programming language, which is equally powerful that as Java. Now, this is the second time the Google has doing it. The previously also they did it something like this, I will tell you. So, these people, they approached the Guido and said that what the changes they have to do it in the Python. Because before that, the Python was not well organized. It was completely blended. Like it was having a good things, but there was the syntax was a problem. There are multiple syntax where multiple, functions were there for one single task. It was not so organized. So these people approached it, the Google people approached, and they invited the Python people to come and start working with the Google people from their office. Because till that time, the Python was not having its own office or something like that in Amsterdam. So they invited them to come down and start working with the Google office. Then first time the Python people started sitting with the Google people and they started doing the changes in the Python application. Now here, the Python took the risk of their life. What is that risk is? In 2008, they released an altogether new version called as Python 3.x. Python 3, 2008, 2005, they mixed up with the Google people and they started developing. Okay, they started developing. And when it came back to the 2008, they came up with an altogether new version called as Python 3.x. Now, that is not the risk. Everyone can release it. But the risk factor is this 3.x is not supported the previous version of the Python. That is called as, it is not backward compatible. The term is called as backward compatible. This backward compatibility is a feature. Now, what is the backward compatibility is a feature is when you release a new version. Now, always you see that the new updates are coming, right? What is this new updates are coming? This is nothing but whatever the previous version, previous approach is there. For that, you are adding some new features. Now, previous, if there is anything is there, they will delete it? No, they will never delete it. Remember this. Because they want now, if think that you are starting a application today, this year, and in 2021, you got the 1,000 users for that. You have some old features. These people were building up using the old features. Now in 2022, you build up the new version of this, an upgraded version. Now, when the upgraded version you are releasing, that should support all the features of the previous version. Remember that. All the features of the previous version, it has to support it. Then it is called as backward compatibility. Now, if you are not supporting it, what will happen? All these people will run away, 1,000 people. Now, you don't know that whether you will get it 1,000 or 2,000 next new version, but all the previous version people will run away because they will not trust you. Okay, then next time when you are going again, you are repeating the same, then your program will be a complete flop. So always the software people make sure that the new version will be supporting the previous versions. That is what is called as backward compatible. Okay, backward compatible. Now, here, when these people release this 3.x, which they were having 3 to 4 million applications. Okay, when they were having 3 to 4 million applications, these 3 to 4 million application people, what they said is your 3.x, whatever you have it, will never support your previous version. Now, what happened to that 4 million people? So they will be 4 million customers, they will be losing it. But what they did it is to confirm them, to satisfy them. They said that from this 2008, they are going to have a new version 3.x, and also the previous version, whatever is there, you will be having the same updates done. Both. So 3.x will be having some updates, the same updates will be done in 2.x also. This support, no one will do that. Previous version, no one will do that. But these people did it to retain their 4 million customers. And they said that this support will be given for you for next 12 years. That is till 2020. And they gave it the last version, what 2.x was, 2.7 it was. 2.7, and they started giving 2.7.1, 2.7.2, like that, they started giving it. Now, this came down till 2.7.18 or 17, they stopped it in 2020, and they gave this 20 years, like 12 years time to transform all your applications from the 2.x to 3.x. And all the people did it. And all the people did it. And looking at the features and the support and the power of the Python, the rest of other programming people also, other language, they transformed into Python. And today, Python is holding a market share of 24%. From 4%, they came down to 24%. And Java is holding 26%. Still, it is ahead. But what is that? It is in the decline stage. From the 60 to 70%, it came down to 24, 26%. And Python from the 4%, it is going down. Now, what is that? It made the people run away behind the Python. First thing is simplicity. It is very, very simple. It's damn simple, very easy.
Yes, sorry, Java, if you want to write a program, you have to write 4 lines. In Python, it was 2 lines.
1 line. 1 line. Because in Java, if you take it, it is an OOPS oriented. 100% you have to write, you have to do it with the OOPS. You have to declare a class, you have to declare all these things. But in Python, no, it is not. Simply if you want to print it. For if you do that Java, I will show you also. I don't have the Java software. Let's see that if I can find any online editor. So you will be seeing that 5 to 6 lines you have to write it. And the complexity will be too high. I'm not saying that it is not powerful. It is really very powerful. Still, it is very powerful. Java is really powerful. And, you know, if you ask me, what is that? Who is holding the Java now? Oracle. Now, these people has completely transformed the Python 2.x architecture to 3.x. Completely. Previously, it was having an old traditional programming language architecture. Now it was completely built with the class and object architecture. That is the reason why whenever you use the type function will give us data type. If you check it out any other program, it will say that integer, string or something. But this will say that class int and class string. That means to say that it is having a class and the variable what you are giving is an object of that particular class. Okay, that is what it will say it as. Okay, that is a concept of the OOPS. We will see it in the OOPS, not to worry about. So very detailedly, we are going to see that one. Okay, so that is the beauty. So now you may ask me a question over here. Why can't the Python people did this? They would have done, sorry, Java people do this. Because it is not so easy. Because Java was having a humongous, like very, very huge amount of customers they were having. Now they can't afford to take such a risk of changing the whole architecture. Now, why we have to change a small architecture means, just imagine. Now you are having a house, guys. Just imagine this is like you are having a small house over here. Okay, this is a house which is given by your grandfather, and you love your grandparents a lot. And you kept it like this. In a due course of, like, it was built in 80s. Okay, in 2000 or 2005 or something like that, you got some money, and what you did it, you built up an building over here. And keeping the basement same, because that your grandparents stayed. As a sentiment, you kept the fundamental foundation, the ground floor, you kept the same, and you added 2 floors. And in a due course of time, you got some more money, and then again you want to add it. Okay, then you added up over here some more floors. Okay, and again, being a sentiment, you kept the same over here. Just we have to respect the sentiment. So then how much floors it will go? Now in like 10 years or so, 2015, this turned out to be a very prime location beside the highway. Now you want to put more, you want to make a skyscraper. Can you make it? Why?
It's basement.
Basement is a problem. The same thing happened. The Python was updating, giving the update one floor after one floor. It was okay. For some extent, it is okay. After that, it will not take it, because there is a chance that your application may slow down or your system may get crashed. So what they did it is, even though it is very much sentimentally attached, they demolished completely, and they took a very beautiful architecture and they built a very skyscraper of 20 floors. That is what the Google people did it. They demolished the complete Python architecture. They built from the scratch. And this was the futuristic language, not the current solution. This was the futuristic language. And starting, I told you, any programming language, if you take it, the life of the programming language will be 3 to 4 decades. Now, this was released in 2010, if you take it. 4 decades means 2050. Now, 3 decades also 2040. Till 2040, it will be running with the current updates. Now, as of now, no language is nearby the Python. It's not that I'm saying again, I'm saying it's because I'm a Python guy, I'm not saying it. Because the power of the Python is like that, I became a Python. I was a Java. Okay, then I moved on to Python because the flexibility and the future of the Python is so much. Now, why we have to learn the Python? Now, next question comes over here. Whereas the other program, there are some languages out there which are rapidly moving up, called as Julia. Julia, Julia. Now, this is again a beautiful language which is based on the somewhat similar structure of that of Python. And the advantage of this, or the sentiment of this is one of the few of the Indians developed this. I told you in the last classes, I guess. And there is a Rust, R-U-S-T, one more language which is evolving. And of course, the R is there. R is again specially used for AI purpose. Now, what is the advantage of the Python is? First thing is, Python is a general purpose programming language. Now, what is the general purpose programming language? Haji, Balaji, general purpose programming. Amit, na? Aditya, Balaji. Your name is Balaji. Follow. What is general purpose programming language? Anyone? क्लास अटेंड कर लिए वहां पे? खत्म भी हो गया आपका वहां पाइथन का? इससे पहले आप लोगों का खत्म हुआ ना? आपका शुरू हुआ? वहां पर नहीं किया. अच्छा, एनीवन?
Is used to develop multiple applications.
What do you mean by that? What you said is correct, but what is exactly you are saying?
Based.
So you can develop the different applications using the Python. Learning the one Python. That's what I was saying. Learning the Python is very, very important. All the time I will say it. Learning the one Python, that is, there will be, if you divide, I divide it. Now, some people say that I will not divide it. I will divide it, the Python, into 3 parts. One is the basic Python, which is very, very important to understand the basics of the Python. Second one called as a core Python, where you will learn the actual programming over there. Actual programming you will be learning. Then there is an advanced Python. Advanced Python is whatever you are going to learn in the core Python, you will be doing an enhancement in that. Enhancement to run for a longer, building a bigger applications. That is not difficult again. Advanced Python is not difficult. Real core will be the major important. Advanced is very simple. If you understand, it will be very simple. Again, if you don't understand, it will be like a hell. So advanced is, now when you know this part, you can build any application, guys. You can build the web application, web-based application. And you know, after knowing this, you will be something like this. I will give you. You will be somewhere over here. It is like a crossroad. Now it's up to you that where you want to go. After learning the Python, it's up to you that where you want to go. You can choose your career. Now, if you want to go to the AI, now what we are doing, you will be learning something like NumPy, Pandas, machine learning, and statistics and deep learning, and you will be going. But Python is same. Not complete advanced Python is not required. Till oops, it is enough for us. Now, if you want to go to them, like automation testing, learn Selenium over here. That's it. And you will become an automation tester. This will not take more than 15-20 days. No, you want to go to the web development. Go to the relevant software like, Django and Flask. All these things you will learn, you will become. In the same way, you can choose your career after doing. And suppose you went to the automation tester. Now there is a limitation will be there for the testers. Now you want to move on to the data science. You already done the halfway. Here you are. Take a diversion. That's it. Any given point of time, you can move on to the different one. No problem at all. That is the advantage. Now, using the Python, you can, once you learn the same Python, guys, you can build the web applications, network applications, and, gaming applications, AI applications, mobile applications, all these things. Now, even though if I say that myself as a data scientist, tomorrow I want to learn, I want to do some deployment, okay, on the web base. I will learn the Django. How much time it will take from me? 15 days maximum. Maximum. I can start writing the code in the Django using the 7 days only. Because I know Python. Everything will be related to Python. That is what it happens. So that is the advantage of this. Now you may say that this is the only language which is giving us that flexibility. No. There is C++ is there. Java is there. They are all equally powerful. That's what I was saying. But the writing the code is very difficult. Now, previously, the people were scared of going to the coding. If you remember that. They were saying that, okay, coding is not my cup of tea because it's very difficult. Because the syntax was very difficult. Syntax means rules. Writing the rules was very, very difficult in Java. But when it came to the Python, it was very much relaxed. They removed all the complexity. They removed all the complex words or the syntax. So they made it very, very easy. As you speak it, you can write it. There's nothing different it is. And, because of this, the people started loving it. And the people wanted to move with this. And at the same time, this is very powerful. It's very simple and very powerful. So everyone can learn it. The people who are so claiming that, okay, I'm not from the programming background. I never touched the programming. Forget about that. It's not, again, rocket. It's not a rocket science, guys. Only thing is that hype was created like programming is very, very difficult. It is not so difficult. You already done like 16, 18 years of study. That shows that you are intelligent. Only thing is that spend some time and you will get it. Learn simple syntax and you will get it. Okay. So one of the major advantages, it is a general purpose programming language. Second one is it is a high level programming language. What is a high level programming language? I told you. Yes, no. The languages will be broadly classified into two types, high level and low level. Low level means the binary and assembly language comes into the category, first and second generation. The high level means you will be using the English-like words. You will be using the English-like words. Okay? And this comes, the Python is an high level programming language. So, you know, you can just write it with the English words. It's no need to learn your binary language and do something. Okay, this is the second major advantage. Now, other programming languages are the same. The third one is it is a OOPS-oriented language, object-oriented language. So I will write it down. What is the major advantages? Meanwhile, think about what is OOPS and tell me. Okay, first one, then high-level programming language. Third advantage, object-oriented programming language. And fifth one is interpreted language. And fifth one is dynamically typed. What is object? I asked a question. Give me the answer, then I will say the answer. What is OOPS-oriented programming language?
Object-oriented programming language, because everything is written in objects and classes.
What is that? I asked what is that? If someone asked you, you will say that it is written in objects, classes, and objects.
Okay, encapsulation, inheritance.
That is the features. Yeah. Haji. Oops. Haji. Balaji. Ashok. Anyone? Want to try?
I have no more concept about programming background, but according to my view, OOPS is a rule of the to abide or follow the application of the editor.
Yeah, it's very partially correct. See, simple guys. Now, if I check it out, all the people, right? Now, everyone will be having your Haji, దొరికిందా ఏదో చెప్తున్నట్టున్నా ఏదో చెప్తామో అని చూస్తున్నాను. So OOPS is now, if I check it out, all your handwriting guys, they are different, right? Everyone is having a different. So in the same way, when you write a coding, there will be different styles here. Different styles means not the font. It is not the font. It is the way of writing the code will be different. That is different style of writing the code. Now, the OOPS is one of the style of writing the code. That's it. Now, what is said is like it is a different rules. So, OOPS is a different style of writing the code. Now, this style of writing the code, right? When you call it, usually whenever the fresher comes, I ask this question, like, what is OOPS? Is it a language? No, they will say, some of them say yes. Some of them, they don't know. And they will give that like non-relevant. I'm not asking what are the features of the OOPS. I'm asking what is exactly the OOPS. OOPS is a paradigm. The term is called as paradigm. Now, the term paradigm means style of writing the code is called as paradigm. Okay. Now, OOPS is a paradigm, guys. Now, let me do this. Paradigm. Okay. What is this paradigm means? style of writing the code is called as paradigm. Okay. Now, when you are talking about the OOPS paradigm, no, this is one among the, of course, this is one among the best ones, guys. No doubt about this. This is one of the best. Now, when it came into the existence, you know that it was in 1960. In 1960, it came into the existence. These OOPS came into the existence in 1960. Okay, and when it came into the what is the scenario? What is the event on which it came down? Is there was a very famous conference which happened called as Dartmouth Conference. And this Dartmouth is not a name, it is a name of the college. And this was a part of MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Okay, this one conducted a 5 years series of conferences. In 1956 to 1960, they conducted the series of conferences. These conferences were called as Dartmouth conferences. And you know, in 1950, how important it is, 56, this is where the first time the word AI was used. The person name was John McCarthy. He was the one who used the name called as AI, artificial intelligence. First time he coined the term called as AI, artificial intelligence, in 1956. And in 1959, a gentleman by the name Arthur Samuel used the word called as ML, that is machine learning. Now here again, the same Dartmouth conference, this came down. And looking at the term which was used and the way it was explained by the gentleman called as John McCarthy, so a group of people started developing a altogether new programming style that is called as OOPS, and which was introduced in the year was 1960. 1960. Now the reason why the OOPS came into the existence was because of the 1956 conference which was addressed by John McCarthy. Okay. Now this is, now it's almost like 60, 61, 62 years. Still, it is one of the most powerful way of paradigm in the world. What is writing as of now? Now, what are the other paradigms what we have? So there is one is called as procedural. Functional. What is functional then? But then why there's a different name? So if without functions, you will not write the procedure. Now whatever I wrote, it is without functions, right? Yes. Then functions itself is a style of writing the code. It's very powerful again. And you know, there is something called as modular. Modular paradigm. Next one is called as OOPS, guys. Now you know what is OOPS now. Okay. Now next one is called as logical. Okay. Now till now, whatever I showed you, now we wrote it some few lines of the code, right? The sentences, statements. That is the procedural. It will be a top-down approach. How you read your book, how you write it, the same way you will write the code. Start from the left, go towards the right, end, come down. Start from the left, go to the right, end, come down. Something like that you will be doing. This is called as procedural. Okay, there is something called as functional. Now, what is a functional is, anyone? In out. Ekkado. Kada? Chesavu kuda.
By using functions, you will enter course.
So, ivanni code rastanduke. Ekkado chesanu antaru gani, what is that you don't know? What is the purpose of that?
Code reusability. Code redundancy can be avoided.
It's not, it didn't took the patentship, right? OOPS didn't took the patentship. Actually, OOPS is based on the functions, guys. If you know it or not, usually we will not use the functions in our real-time program, but functions will definitely help you to enhance your coding skills. Definitely it will help you to enhance. Usually the people will ignore it, but that is really very powerful. Very, very powerful. If you know the functions perfectly, you can do the modeler. What is modularization? Now you are saying that code reusability, right? Huh? What do you mean by that?
If you use the same code.
Same code?
Multiple times in the program.
Okay, in the same program, right? That is not an effective way of reusability. Mere use చేస్తే ఏముంది, mere రాసి నేను యూజ్ చేయాలి. That is what is the real code reusability. That can be achieved by modularization. What you said is correct. I'm not saying that what you said is wrong. Now you wrote a code. Suppose now you are having 1,000 lines of the code, guys. Just imagine this is my 1,000 lines of the code. This is my 1,000 lines of the code. Now in this, there are around 10 lines of the code. We are repeating it 20 times. So 1,000 low, how many lines are repeated? 200 lines are repeated. Now, what is the disadvantage of this? First thing, I'm wasting my resource. The person who is writing is repeatedly writing the same code. First thing. Yeah, memory wastage. Okay, memory wastage. My other resource is my interpreter will be wasted. Now, what is the purpose of the interpreter? I said it, dual role it will be there. What is that? One, it will convert the code to the binary. Second one is it will check the errors. So these 200 lines, they are same lines, but interpreter doesn't know that. And it will go on checking this 200 lines 200 times. So obviously, even though it is taking a nanoseconds or the microseconds, it is wasting its time. You are wasting your resource time. That will affect a lot, guys, application. That will affect a lot when you're building up an application. Now, third disadvantage is, suppose this 10 lines is there. How many times it is repeated? 20 times. I want to add one more line into that. That is 11 lines. How many places I have to add? How many times? How many places? 20 places I have to add. So it will become 11 lines. 20 places I have to add. Now while entering it, now adding a new line into the existing line or adding a new feature to the existing feature is called as enhancement. Again, it's a very big term, a simple for upgradation. Okay, in the programming terminology, they call it as enhancement. I'm enhancing the code, they will say. That is nothing but they are giving some extra features to the code. Okay? Yeah. Yeah. Okay? That is extra features we are adding it. When we adding extra features to the existing code, that is called as an enhancement. Now, enhancement will be difficult, right? Because you have to go to the 20 different places and you have to change it. Now, the third important point, or fourth, I don't know, what is the number? The fourth is, if I'm entering some change in that line, I made a mistake. Now, how many places I have to go and change it? 20 different places I have to go and change it. Now, removing the error is there, that is a mistake. If I want to remove it, that is called as debugging. The term is called as debugging. In the technical terminology, they call it as debugging. Bug, debug, remove it. Duplicate, deduplicate. Duplicate means deduplicate means you are removing the duplicates. Okay. Debugging means removing the bug. So again, you have to go to the 20 different places and you have to remove it. Right? Every time you have to do that. So that
Recording in
way of
progress.
doing the reusability. Definitely, it is an effective way of doing the reusability. Now, this code, we will be using it n number of times. I will give a name to this code. I will give a name to this code, any name. I will give it as ABC or function or something like that. I will give it the name as function 1. I will call over here function 1 of function 1 of. So here, from here, it will go it. Here it is going. Now, this part where we are writing the code, the logic repeated, that is called as definition. That is called as definition. And this part from where I am doing, this is the calling part. So there will be two parts will be there in the functions. One is the definition part and the calling part. But the problem over here is, now that's what I said. If you write it, now, if you are cooking yourself and you are eating yourself and you are saying that it is very good, what is the point? You should give to me and I will eat and I should say that it is good enough, right? Then that makes sense. Obviously, if you cook means, it will be good only for yourself. So in the same way, when you are using a code, you are keeping a code and you are using it. What is the reusability? Of course, there is reusability, but that is very less. But actual reusability is over here. This code, what is this code? This code is there. This code, I will not put it over here. I will take another program over here. Okay. This program, I will put this code, guys. For the repeated code, this program, I will put it. Now, from here, I'm going to call this one. Now here there is a team members will be there. Okay, there will be team members. Now this is my only the function, again the same function. You are taping the repeated code, the definition part, and putting in the another file, and you are calling that one wherever you want it. The advantage of this one, n number of people can use it. Now without this concept is called as modularization. Okay, this concept is called as modularization. Without modularization, you can't implement the project. Forget about that. Without modularization, you can't implement the project. And even though if you know the OOPS, if you want to know the OOPS, what are the things you have to know? Classes and the objects. But what is a class? Class will have the function only.
Yes, sir.
When you take the function and you put it in the class, that is called as a method. So if you know the functions, then you can play with the OOPS. And OOPS is also, again, it is very, very effective when you apply the modularization. Otherwise, no. Again, it is like kind of a bit lacking over there. So use the modularization with the OOPS and the function will be a real effective one.
Sir, అంటే ఇక్కడ only one person not sir program రాసి కోడ్ జనరేట్ చేస్తాడు. అయితే నెక్స్ట్ టైం అతను మీ ట్రాన్స్ఫర్ చేసినప్పుడు మళ్ళీ ప్రోగ్రామ్ రాయాల్సిన అవసరం లేదు. సేమ్ ఇట్లా కాపీ చేసుకుంటే ప్రోగ్రామ్ అయిపోతుంది సార్ అక్కడ. కాపీ ఎందుకు చేస్తాం?
అంటే మీరు ఇక్కడ నుంచి అక్కడికి
ట్రాన్స్ఫర్ అంటే నేను కాల్ అంటున్నాను. You will be calling the existing code. You will not copy it. You will not copy. Sometimes you will don't know that how to copy also. That will be strictly restricted.
Yes.
Only thing you can use that code. That's it. You will just call them. That's it. When you call them, you will get that code features and you can use it. That is what is called as modularization. You will never copy the code. Okay. This code will never be copied. No, this will be here only. You will be calling this one over here. From here, you will be calling it. That is a concept of modularization. Completed modularization? Good. That is really nice. Okay. And modularization will be very, very effective. Sorry, when you use the OOPS with the modularization, that will be really effective. Now, this one, the next paradigm is, what is that we are having? OOPS. I said you, OOPS is having a major concept. It is altogether a new structure, guys. There will be a class. Based on the class, you are going to create the objects. Okay, it's an extra level. Now, it will do based on two concepts, the OOPS is standing. One is called as security. Second one is called as reusability. Now, reusability is implemented in the OOPS by OOPS हो गया भाई ऐसा मत देखो यार OOPS how you implement the reusability in the OOPS?
Inheritance.
Yeah, inheritance and or encapsulation or abstraction, right? The inheritance and polymorphism is used to implement the reusability. Now the security is implemented by using abstraction and encapsulation. Both will be used for the security level, but there is a slight difference will be there. But it is a very effective way of writing the code. Now guys, if you are having OOPS in your resume, remember that itself is a qualification. So powerful is the OOPS. Okay. Now, if you are able to write the code with the OOPS, then because I can say that the people with 6-7 years experience also, they will hate to write the code in the OOPS because they don't know how to write the OOPS. It's not that it is difficult. It is a lack of knowledge. And there is a concept called as decorators in the Python. Decorators. And even the decorators, the fundamentals of the decorators will be found in the functions. If you know the functions, you can play with the decorators. And one of the most complicated concepts in the programming world is called as decorators. The people are really scared of that. Decorators. And of course, the lambda function will be there. That is also, if you see it, if you know it, it is pretty much easy. Otherwise, it is very difficult. Okay. Now, this is called as, the OOPS. Now, it is an interpreted programming language, guys. What is the interpreted programming language? It will execute line by line. Now, the compiler, it will, if you have the 100 lines of the code, it will execute or it will check the error for the 100 lines of the code. After that, it will execute it. Now, if the 99 lines are without error and 99th line is having the error, so the program is terminated. Remember that. That is called as a compiler. It will not execute line by line. Whereas interpreter, what it will do? It will execute line by line. Okay. Now interpreter first line it will check the error and it will execute. Second line, check the error, execute. Third line, check the error, execute. Line by line it will do. So compiler, it will check complete error in a whole 100 lines. If it is error free, then it will execute. Obviously, the compiler will be much faster compared to that of interpreter, right? But the Python, this is a drawback. So what the Python did it is, they took the compiler, they took the interpreter and they clubbed up together. They call it as a PVM, Python Virtual Machine. So they got the compiler, they got the interpreter. Again, there is an internal mechanism will be there. We will not go so deep into that. So they got a compiler, they got the interpreter, they packed up together and they call it as a PVM. So whenever we are using the term PVM or the interpreter, we are referring to the PVM only. Okay. Now, what is the advantage of this is the whole load will be there, right? Whole load of the execution will be split up. and compiler will be doing his work, the interpreter will be doing it. Wherever the compiler is required, it will take care. Wherever the interpreter is required, it will take care. Sometimes that is the reason why sometimes whenever you're dealing with the coding, right? When you write the coding, if the interpreter is there, if you only interpreter is there, if there is like 100 lines of the code and 90th line is the error is there, whatever the 90 line output will be there, you will be seen. It will be seen. And after that, the program will get terminated. With a compiler, no, you will not see it. But in Python, sometimes what happens, sometimes you will see the output, sometimes you will not see the output at all. That means to say that sometimes the compiler will be taking care, sometimes the interpreter will be taking care of that. They are working in such a way that they are very fast compared to that of compiler. So that is the advantage of compiler and interpreter. Okay, combination which is called as PVM. Now the last one, guys, is a really important one. What is this dynamically typed? Yeah? What is this dynamically typed, guys? That's the answer. Dynamically typed in the control. Answer? Answer wrong is a computer program. Very simple. That's a mistake. What is the dynamically typed? What is typed? Typed. We use the word typed, I think. So what is that? Data type. Data type. Yes.
It's just as the auto correction. Auto correction.
How to do the correction? That is
automatic correction. Automatic type.
Automatically typed. You are saying it. So it will write the program on its own?
No. As we see yesterday, the editor we are using, as you say, print or something, you will
get a correction over there, auto correction you are saying. There it will come down, the syntax.
Yes.
That is not the one. See, the typed meaning is, you want to say something? Balaji? Yes, sir?
No need of writing.
Yeah, that is not dynamically typed, but it is helping the dynamical type a bit. That is not the exactly dynamical type. Yes, Ashok? Same, huh? My brothers. Balaji. Bhai bolo yaar. Have you heard it anytime? Heard it? See guys, there is a two words are there in this, dynamically and typed. Typed is referring to the data type. What is dynamically? The static is there. Opposite of dynamic is static. What is static?
You can't give values at the runtime.
You
can't give the values at the runtime.
You can't give the values at the runtime. It's called as dynamical. Static. Yeah, non-changeable. In a simple term, non-changeable. When you are saying that non-changeable, they are called as static. When it is changeable, then it is called as dynamic. So here, dynamically typed means changeable data type.
Immutable.
Huh? Utility? Yeah, it's a bit partially. What you said is also partially correct. So what this is exactly mean is, see, whenever you write the program, guys, there will be in the two phases. One is the editable phase. Second one is called as executable phase. Now the editable phase, now you are the king. You can write whatever you want. Because whatever you write it, that will be considered in the editable phase. You can write whatever you want it, literally, okay? But executable phase, You are just a mere spectator. You are just have to observe it. You can't do anything over there. In the executable phase. Now, who is the person who is responsible for the executable phase? Your PVM or the interpreter. So in the editable phase, you are the king, I am the king, I will be writing anything, whatever. Once I execute, I am passing on the complete control to my PVM. Then in the PVM, while doing the execution, I can't change. During the execution, when you are able to change the data type, that is called as dynamically typed. That means during the execution, when the data type is changed, that is called as dynamically typed. That is, when you are dynamically means changeable data type during execution, not in this. While writing code, anyone can write it. But during the execution, a same variable, one time it is holding an integer, same variable, second time it is holding a string, the same variables, the third time it will hold a float. What is happening? One time the same variable integer, same variable float, and third time string. Here the data type is changed during the execution. During the execution. That is what is called as dynamically typed. Now you may ask me, is this not possible with the other programming language? No. Now the reason for that is what you said it, there is no predefined data type. Now when you take it in the other programming language, we are going to use it as like this, guys. A is equals to 100. I told you yesterday. As this happens, from the left side it will come down. It will allocate a memory for the integer where 100, where the only it will accept integer only. Okay, once the memory is allocated for the integer, only it will accept integer. Now in the future, as you go down, A is equals to, now you are saying that A is equals to, I'll say apple over here. So this is an error in other program. Why? Because you already said that I want a memory location for what purpose? For only integer purpose. I want the memory location only for the integer purpose. Okay, then what you are doing over here? String you are doing. It will not accept. String is different from the integer, right? So it will not accept in the other programming language. For in Python, what it will do is like A is equals to, I'm saying it 100. Here we are not giving data type. Have you seen it? We didn't give the int over there. That's what she was saying, that there's no need of giving the integer. Because of this, now here, what is happening? First, a memory is being occupied by the 100 and A is allocated to this. Okay, first the memory is occupied by the 100 and A is allocated. Now A is referring to what? Memory location where the 100 is there. Now what is the data type of A? As per the value. Whatever the value is stored, as per the value it is. Now here when I'm doing it, A is equals to apple. What is happening? Can it accept?
Yes.
Yes, it accepts in Python. How it is accepting? What is the internal mechanism over here? See, usually what the people think is something like this, guys. They will keep a memory location over here. 100 is there. We are having a memory location over here, right? And we are going to give it A is equals to 100. Okay, clear? And this, now this is pointing. When I'm saying this one, now usually the people will be thinking that this value is changed inside this and apple is coming down over here, right? Yes or no? No. No, this is not happens over here. What happens over here is, if I'm giving it 100 over here like this. This is a permanent one, that is immutable. You can't change it. Once a value occupies memory in the Python, that is immutable. You can't change it. Now, how that is happening down there? It is nothing but there is another memory location is there where apple is stored. And this reference will be coming down over here. What about this one then? This will be removed. Okay, because of this mechanism, internal mechanism, this dynamically typed is possible. Now you may get a question there. Okay, sir, if I am saying A is equals to, okay, let it write down over here. A is equals to, I am having like India over here. So another memory location will be allocated India, right? And A will be coming down over here. Right? A will be pointing out from here to here, it will be pointing out. Now, what happens to the apple and 100? It is a waste of memory. Right? It is a waste of memory. No. What happens is, actually, there is a background program called as garbage collector, GC. Now, this, as soon as a variable was there here, as long as the variable is there, it will not touch. Once the variable is moved on to the another variable, or this memory location is not referred by a variable, automatically the garbage collector will come and delete it. And this one also, there is no variable is referring to this, automatically the garbage collector and come and delete it. Okay. Now, this one is having a variable referring, so it will not touch it. Now, when this garbage collector will come and delete it, not at the end of the program. No. Immediately, once the reference is changed, even though the program is running, it will come and delete it. That is the actual, nowhere, you are nowhere connected with the garbage collector. Automatically, it will come and it will delete the things, guys. Now, this is actually the concept of immutable. Whatever the value, remember this one, whatever the value, once it is assigned inside the memory, okay, occupy the memory, that is immutable. Especially what I'm talking about is the fundamental data types. Now, data types will be here 2 types. Now, we already came to this one. After this, the next concept is called as data types, guys. Okay, any questions you have it? Guys who are online, sorry that I was not able to answer. Yeah, another create. Guys, please wait till the last before asking questions so that I can go through them one after the other and I can answer them. Yeah, some of them gave the correct answers. Any questions, guys?
But actually, so Python advanced coding advanced concept. But some people
అదే అన్నా కదా నేను చెప్తున్నాను అందుకు చెప్పినా నాకు తెలిసిన అడుగుతాను ఎవరైనా అడుగుతారు అది యాక్చువల్ there is no concept of advanced and because ఏందంటే when you do that our people will understand okay I am having the first set so like you know I am having the first small set this is a basic they will understand okay this is a basic now when I say the core means if I core and a word the middle part means what is that exactly? So advanced level, there is no concept of advanced level also actually, but usually we classify them into 3 types. One is a basic, core, and advanced level. But actually, the Python people don't have anything like that. They will have everything in a similar way. That's it. Okay. Any more questions? Clear? Clear? Okay, next class will be a very important one, guys. That is called as data types. Okay, we are going to look into some data types really well. And then we will be moving on. Now, this is a bit slow I'm going because they were saying that from Monday till Monday we will be going slow. Then afterwards we will jump into the major things.